All right, welcome in everybody to the Auburn Live Basketball Show. Appreciate everybody joining us. I'm Justin Hokanson. With me, as always, is contributor Jay Phillips. Jay, what's up, man? How are you doing?
Doing good. Another Auburn win, some good SEC hoops this week. Can't complain.
Yeah. Let's get into it. AuburnLive.com. Go subscribe if you're not a subscriber. $30 gets you access till next football season. So go take advantage of that. AuburnLive.com. All right, let's talk about it. Auburn goes 2-0 since we last spoke. Big win over Arkansas, 13-point win at home, which was huge for that team when it happened. They come back, go on the road on short order. 3 days later, go on the road on the Tuesday, and take care of business at Ole Miss. Win that game by 9. They were up 14 in the second half at one point. Of course, Ole Miss is now 0-4 in the league, but they've played Auburn, Mississippi State, Alabama, and Tennessee, I think. So they've had a brutal start. But 2-0 since we last spoke. Auburn's 3-1 in the league. And all of a sudden, boy, that Georgia game feels like a long way away. What are your thoughts on the last two games, the win over Arkansas, the win over Ole Miss? Good wins. Have they found anything? Are they solving any problems, or is it too early to say that they've solved some of those issues that they've been dealing with early in the season?
Say it's probably a little too early to, say they've 100% solved things, but it's crazy how much a difference that 2 games can make. After the Georgia game, it seemed like they were really trending down and that a lot of the problems we thought they had fixed were maybe just masked by the bad competition and non-conference play or something, or, the not great competition and non-conference play. But I think they've definitely found something here in the past 2 games. The question with this team's always going to be consistency. Can they keep it going? Wendell Green, he's been such a catalyst for Auburn going back to last year, but his thing is, can he string the games together? Can he always be there? Can you depend on a smaller point guard in conference play with all these massive bigs and whatnot dominating the league this year to score 20 points a night for you? It's a lot to ask, but he looks capable in the past 2 games. Alan Flanagan the same way. He's always had these consistency questions, and the past 3 games for him have just been as well as he's ever played at Auburn. I think if they can keep that going, they've really found something. That's a good identity. You've got a seriously, a front court that's almost always going to have an advantage. Just Janai Brome has been so good. Jalen Williams is so automatic with some of his shots, and you get some of this, you get a little bit of consistent play from your perimeter, and this team will take off, maybe not win the league and get a 1 seed, but they're going to be the kind of team that can, contend with the Alabamas and Tennessees, even if they don't win the games, if they have that backcourt production.
Yeah, I think
they got to keep it going. That's the thing.
I think it's interesting. You really have had what I called in a recent article the Big Four the last 2 games: Janai, Jalen, Wendell, and Al. Shockingly, honestly, both all 4 of those guys have. I think against Arkansas, did the math. I think it was like 78% of the points came from those 4 against Arkansas, and 84% of the points against Ole Miss came from those 4. So all of a sudden, an offense that struggled, it doesn't struggle as much when those players, we talked about it, man. They can't afford, really a bunch of off nights or turnovers. They can't afford a bunch of mistakes and overcome them. But if they're on, there's some ability there. We've known that. It's just about getting consistency. And you've had a couple of games now of consistent play. Janai Brome, 4 straight double-doubles in league play. And so I don't know what the bigger story is in that last few games. I mean, to me, it's Alan Flanagan. And there's no way. Look, I don't gamble, but if I was a gambler, boy, I would have bet a lot of money that if you said, hey, in 3 of the first 4 SEC games, Al's going for double digits. He's going to score 18 against Arkansas. He's going to score. If you'd have told me that in November, I wouldn't have. No way, not a shot. I don't think people understand how far he's come I mean, not just since last year, since a month or two ago. There's a lot going on with him just trying to find himself and find his game. Super proud of him. And if 3 games, I mean, 1 or 2 games, fine. I texted one of the coaches. I said, "Boy, if Al can do this 3 games in a row, I'll be super encouraged." And sure enough, he does it. That is a massive development. If he has sort of found himself. Now, look, everybody deserves a bad game. So if he has a bad game, everybody doesn't need to freak out and go, "There's the old Al again." But what he's done the last 3 games, that's a massive development because you know kind of what you got with Wendell, Janai. Al was not a guy that I was counting on this year as of a month or 2 ago. He just wasn't. I think I probably said it on the board. Look, he's not a guy that you're going to rely on. But all of a sudden, if he's back to doing that, if he's back to being a double-digit scorer, that is a huge development for this team. Huge. I mean, I don't know if I can understate it because Janai is going to be consistent.
Yeah.
I think it helps Wendell if Al does that. And, of course, Jalen's pretty consistent. He just needs the shots. But offensively, being so challenged, the fact that Al can step up and do what he did, man, that's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Flanagan is just such an insane athlete, too. He's just that fast twitch, explosive ability and whatnot, and he has a solid handle. And I think that, a lot of the times the role that he plays would just frustrate people because he would get out of control. But it doesn't seem like he's playing a different role right now either. He's just using everything the way he's supposed to. He's not, when he does have to be the primary ball handler, he's not rushing into things. And he just seems like he's a lot more comfortable out there. I know Bruce Pearl has been praising his preparation, and it really shows because you can tell when he goes to run one of these ball screen actions that he does, he's not getting nervous or, losing the ball at his feet when he tries to do a crossover or something like that. It's just, he's doing the same things. He's just executing them 100 times better. And it's definitely, it's valuable just because he's making threes in transition. He's, running successful offense when teams try to swarm Trey Donaldson when Wendell Green isn't on the court. It's just, he's the glue piece in a lot of ways. And when he's playing well, you can really see how it elevates everyone on the team.
Yeah. Wendell kind of finding himself. What's interesting is, look, in the first half against Ole Miss, Wendell and Al were 3 of 14. That they were struggling a little bit. But then Al goes 5 for 5 in the second half. Wendell gets to the free throw line, hits some threes, and they come alive. And Auburn scores 50 points in the second half of that game. There's a lot of good things. Look, you look at turnovers. 8 turnovers against Arkansas. Ended up being 10 against Ole Miss. I think Auburn's allowed
10 is so good.
Yeah, no, 10 is so good. They've allowed 15 They've allowed 15 transition points, fast break points in 2 games total. 80 minutes of basketball, they've allowed 15 points. But the crazy thing is, if not for that 10-second call that Wendell got at the end of with a minute left in that Ole Miss game, just kind of a weird, you almost don't even want to count it because Ole Miss didn't really force it. It was just a mental error there.
It seemed like he lost track of time.
That would have been single-digit turnovers in back-to-back games for Auburn, and I looked that up. They haven't done that in 30 games. They still haven't technically because they got to 10. The last time it happened was January of last year in league play when they did that. So it's been 30 games, and now the streak is still going. 30-plus games now of just back-to-back games and single-digit turnovers. That's how rare that is for Auburn. Just the way they play, you kind of go ahead and chalk up 10 to 12 turnovers. But they're doing a great job the last few games of taking, and really even Georgia just 10. Turnovers weren't really what killed them against Georgia. They did allow some points, but they didn't play well offensively and things like that. But they're for what this team is, the last few games, knowing their personality, knowing how they play, their patience, their focus almost every time down the court to what's the play call, what are we trying to accomplish. It's as good as it's been in a long time. This team has they have the ability sometimes to be a little schizophrenic, a little hey, I'm just going to take the open threes when they're there, and Bruce encourages that to some degree. But the last couple of games is as dialed in as this team certainly has been all year, and man, in a while they just seem locked in on not losing their minds like they can sometimes, right? They can get a little crazy and they can get a little wild, and it's not a bad thing. Bruce encourages that sometimes, but this team, I don't think they can play quite that way. I think they have to do what they've done the last two games. I don't think they can play the, up and down shoot through. I don't think they're not that good of a 3-point shooting team, and they just have some flaws that I think when they try to play maybe the way other teams in the past have played at Auburn, they could get themselves in trouble. I don't think they're the caliber of shooting team to do that. I think they would waste a lot of possessions if they did that. Mm-hmm. And what you've seen the last two games is just a really concerted effort to just focus in and do what they need to do, try to get good shots, get good looks, run the play, get Janai down low. I'm just really impressed with something clicking after that Georgia game. I mean, Alan Flanagan talked about that team meeting. It worked. It worked. They're playing so much better. They look like a team. They're acting like a team. I'm really curious to see over the next few games if it carries on. Look, you got Mississippi State, who's a good team. I don't know if they won. Did they win last night? Did they win on Wednesday night or Tuesday night?
No, Georgia beat them, actually. It was like 58-50. Ugly.
So Georgia, by the way, is looking. I mean, Georgia went to Florida, played competitive, beat Mississippi State. Georgia's not a bad team, but you got Mississippi State Tom Green good. And then you got some other road games in here. So let's see if they can carry it over. But I love that's probably even more than Al, even more than anything, the mental state of this team and the patience that they've shown on offense specifically the last two games, to me, is a huge, huge development for this team in what they can be. This team, it's all about mental, man. The talent is there. It's about mentally staying in it, mentally being locked in, playing smart, having good leadership. That stuff has happened the last two games.
Yeah, I agree. And, like you were saying, it wasn't really turnovers or, the defense was bad at Georgia, but it wasn't really turnovers or one specific problem that led to that game. But the mentality and the energy in that game was night and day compared to the past two. It seemed like, in retrospect, it seemed like at the Georgia game, the attitude that Auburn had was just that we don't care, we're not great. We're just going to go out there and play or something. These past two games, it looks like a team that thinks it's capable of contending, that wants to be great kind of thing. And that goes a long way for a Bruce Pearl team. There's a bunch of schematic stuff that goes into it, of course, but when you're expected to play that high level of defense for 40 minutes a game and you're expected to extend your pressure full court for most of the game, you can't be I don't care attitude. You have to be going out there and playing as hard as you can for that type of style to work. And it really has the last two games. It just looks like a team looks like a different team out there.
Chris Moore got injured, bum right shoulder, separated shoulder, Bruce said. I don't know all the details about it in terms of separation, dislocation. Is it the same thing? What's the prognosis? I'm not sure there. But that is one of the negatives that happened from that game. He's a guy that's been starting and been contributing and been consistent. He's been giving you, 6 or 7 points, 3, 4, 5 rebounds, not turning the ball over.
Really good defense too.
Get a couple offensive rebounds. And so we'll see how long he's out. That certainly would, means more minutes for Al. Could push Al back into the starting lineup, which could be interesting. I almost wonder if there's a way for them to keep Al off the bench, because he's played so well now, 2 games off the bench. He's not pressing. And I think Al probably moves back into the starting lineup. I don't know that they have another option. But it sure was nice.
I think you can give him that too.
Do what now?
See if it helps his confidence. I was saying maybe it'll help his confidence even more a little bit to get back with the starters.
Maybe. I was kind of going the other way with Al. Like he just, I think when he's in the right role and the right mindset, it's good. I worry a little bit about putting him back in the starting lineup, and he does he flip into, oh, I'm the man again now. Like I'm a starter, I'm a press. And that's not what they need from him. They need him. Like he was doing great coming off the bench. Auburn the last 2 games, their bench points were fantastic because he was coming off the bench and producing what he was producing. Nobody an opponent's not going to match that. I mean, I don't know that you're going to play. Very few teams can bring a guy off the bench that's going to go for 18 and 15 the next game, 15 the next game. I mean, with the way Bruce does things and the way they rotate, when they kind of find a rhythm, it was nice. And so we'll see how it kind of – you put Al back in the starting lineup, and now he's in the rotation with Wendell and Janai. So that's 3 of your guys. How do all those guys get buckets? But specifically, how can Al continue to be patient if he's on the court with Wendell and with Janai, because those guys are going to dominate touches. And so it's just something to watch, I think. I think it'll say a lot if Al can move back into the starting lineup and continue to play the way he has. I think it'll speak volumes about where he is with his game and how he's fitting in with the team. But yeah, I think defensively they're obviously playing really well. But offense, man, it wasn't long ago that they were turning the ball over 23 times at USC. And just, scoring 40-something against Northwestern. And heck, even the first SEC games, I mean, at home, they barely get to 60 at home against Florida. And then go on the road at Georgia and don't score well. I mean, this team is seriously offensively challenged. And then all of a sudden you're in the 70s against Arkansas and you're at 82 against Ole Miss on the road. That is hard to do. 80s on the road in the SEC is big time. What else stands out to you? KD Johnson's another player that stands out in terms of he's sort of been for him quiet, but I think it's a testament to him settling into his role. He's I think since the Georgia State game, I think he's kind of reined it in a little bit in terms of, hey man, we need you to be within the offense here. Like the KD that goes out and just goes nuts and goes 3 for 14 and jacks up threes that's not what this team needs. And he seems to be playing his role well, taking his shots when they're there, being an impact player when he has the opportunity, but not pushing the envelope so much over the last probably 3-4 games.
Yeah, I think he had one pretty poor shooting performance in there, but other than that, he's been definitely more settled down. But, KD's so weird because sometimes some of those KD explosions are exactly what Auburn needs. So you kind of hope he doesn't completely put that behind him. You have one of those stretches where Auburn goes, 0 of 11 over 4 minutes of play kind of thing. And it's like, why not put KD in there and see if he can just go nuts and get a bucket? But yeah, his calming down, playing a little more of, a true guard role and not just a scoring guard role for him is really good because he does have good vision. He's a good defender. He's way more than somebody who can just attack the basket. So seeing him do that's pretty nice. But like to see, both him and Zepp have a little bit more aggressive mindset when it comes to scoring. It's, you think about if I was coaching defense against this Auburn team, I would tell people to, I'd tell my shooting guard, my off-ball guard to help on the point guard as much as he can because we're not afraid of KD Johnson and Zepp Jasper at this point. And then, when Zepp Jasper shoots, it's a nothing but net 3, and KD can do the same thing at times. And so I'd like to see them be a little more aggressive in that sense. And I think they can be, and that would just, it would give so much help to the spacing, and you give Wendell a little more room, and that's a whole different game for him as well. One thing I talked about in the breakdown that's been standing out to me is Janai Brome's passing as well. I've really liked some of the offense that Auburn's called around that. They're, against Ole Miss, they really used him down in the low post. Ole Miss tries to run that 1-3-1 zone, and it's just like if you're just going to put one person in the post, then we're going to give the ball to Janai Brome down there, and you can't recover fast enough to bring a double team on him. And, it was just easy. And then Ole Miss they adjusted to more of a 2-3 zone and really stopped morphing it so much so that they could be in a set position. And Auburn just started bringing Janai Brome out to the top and running some back cuts and whatnot. And it was, just I thought that was interesting. He's been, not just able to pass out of double teams, but they've incorporated his passing into the offense a lot more than I expected.
Yeah, he's become a good passer. You're right. I mean, one of those games recently, he led the team in assists one game, or at least had 4 or 5.
Yeah, he had 5 and led the team one game, and he led the starters in assists for either 2 or 3 games as well since the first road trip. And he's had, I think I did the math, he had 14 assists in his last 5 games. The 5 before that, he had 4 assists, and they all came in one game. So,
wow.
He's getting a little more comfortable.
I was looking up one of the other aspects of what Al is doing is, so last season, Al turned the ball over 2 times a game. That puts you in the bottom 15% nationally. And Auburn turned the ball over a lot last year. Wendell turned the ball over 2 times a game, Jabari. But no, he was turning the ball over 2 times a game. And then you look at all of a sudden what he's doing, and he's turned the ball over twice total in the last 3 games. And so that's his 3-game stretch. That is almost maybe actually probably more indicative of the way he's playing than the points scored. If he didn't have games of 11, 18, and 15, let's say he had games of 10, 8, and 10 or something, but he had those turnovers with what they are, that is more important. That's more important to this team. The points are huge. Don't get me wrong, going for 18. But when he gets in there to do one turnover, and 0 against Ole Miss, he's only had one other game this season where he had 0 turnovers, and that was against Northwestern, and that was it, which was a super slow, methodical pace to that game. But he didn't have another game this season where he didn't have a turnover, and then he does it on the road against Ole Miss where he plays 34 minutes. And all of a sudden he's played back-to-back games with 30-plus minutes as well. So he's played 66 minutes of basketball the last 2 games, 1 turnover. That right there for Al is incredible. Is honestly remarkable for where he was just a few months ago. 66 minutes of SEC basketball in the last 2 games, 1 turnover is just that's a huge deal. That's a huge deal for him if he can keep that rolling.
He's been playing pretty heavy minutes in that stretch too, which is good for him, good for the turnover margin, and hopefully that bodes well in terms of if he does have to slide into that starting role and take on some extra minutes while Chris Moore heals up.
Yeah, I don't see a way around it. I mean, you look at – I don't see how – to me, you're going to have to start Al. I don't think there's a way – even if they love the rhythm of him coming off the bench, I'm not sure there's a way around that now. I mean, you'd have to go I don't even know how you would do it. I mean, you could start Janai at the 5, Jalen at the 4. You could go guards. You could go.
You'd have to do a 3 guard lineup.
Only option. You'd have to start, and they don't want to put KD, Wendell, and Zepp on the floor. I don't think that's the direction they want to go. So, it's going to be Al moving into that starting lineup. Now, the other side of that is, if Al continues to play well, moving him into the starting lineup, all of a sudden, your starting group becomes pretty solid if those guys continue to play really well. It hurts your bench a little bit. You were bringing Al off the bench and able to play 30 minutes, and he was doing what he's doing. So now the bench looks a little different in terms of scoring. Trey Donaldson is doing his part as a freshman and guard, but he's not a scorer. KD, maybe it's an opportunity for KD when he comes off the bench to be a little more aggressive, because there could be times where Wendell and Janai and Al are all on the bench. and if KD's out there coming off the bench and he's with Trey Donaldson or Yuan and Dylan, KD all of a sudden looks like a really important player off the bench in terms of scoring if he's out there, while like Al and Janai are on the bench or Wendell's on the bench. And so it could be an opportunity.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a good spot for KD. It's also, and like, I don't think that it's, Auburn's not really running platoons or anything like that this year. You put Alan Flanagan in the starting lineup. He's such a athletic player as well that you can leave him in there when you make that first bench rotation, and you can kind of keep the original first off the bench lineup with Alan Flanagan in it, even though he's a starter. I think that that's possible. I don't think you'd be running him into the ground or anything by any means.
No, not at all. All right, Auburn gets Mississippi State coming in. Mississippi State had a great start to the season, but I think they're coming back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. I was trying to see real quick what let's see where Auburn stands in the net as of Thursday. They are up to 30th. So it says they were, I guess Wednesday, something must have happened Wednesday. They were 29th after their win, I guess 30th. The thing is, Ole Miss isn't very good. Ole Miss is 100. So, while winning a road game the way Auburn did is good, because we know kind of where this Auburn team was a week ago. Ole Miss is a game you should have won. So they're 30th in the net, which of course is the NCAA's ranking. Looks like they lost a quad one game. I think I had them at 2-1 in quad one on Monday, and now they're 1-1. So I don't know if maybe Memphis dropped off. I mean, Memphis is going to hover around that maybe, because it was Memphis, or it could have been Northwestern too.
Might have been USC as well.
Yeah, those are going to be interesting ones to watch. USC need to keep playing well, but Northwestern and Memphis are two teams that are probably, I think, let's see, Northwestern's sitting there at 50, and Memphis is sitting there at 50. And so I think Memphis and neutral court, it needs to be top 50 to be quad one. Northwestern, same thing, neutral court. So those two need to stay inside the top 50 to be quad one wins, and they could hover around that all year. So just kind of inside baseball, but you might want to pay attention to Memphis and Northwestern as they go, because those guys literally could come back and win games and both bump into it. It's two quad one wins that will matter come NCAA tournament time. And so those are going to be two important games, I think, to watch. Washington's terrible. They're going to fire their coach probably. And then St. Louis would be another team to watch. So they're 30th in the net. Kim Palm, I think, still thinks highly of Auburn, probably as highly as anybody. They have Auburn at 18th in the Ken Palm. And then I think ESPN's Power Index has Auburn at 19th, up to 19th. And of course, that's about where they are in the AP ranking. So they're doing well. Mississippi State game will be another good one. What are your thoughts on Mississippi State at home Saturday? What do you expect? What's Mississippi State? Give a little teaser. I know you're going to have a primer at auburnlive.com on Saturday morning, but just quick thoughts on them.
So, I've been off the Mississippi State train for a while now. They had those, the games they almost lost against, they lost to Drake, and then they almost lost to Nicholls State. I think it was a 2-point game, the game before that. So that really made me question Mississippi State. They play good defense. They're going to be, a substitution-heavy roster. They're coached by Chris Jans, who people will remember from Auburn's Final Four run. He was the New Mexico State coach when Auburn went on that run, and that's his patented style, is heavy substitution, lots of defense, lots of pressure. So I expect that from him. Tolu Smith has been a great presence around the rim for him on both sides. He's been one of the best rebounders in the SEC for like 3 years now too. Yeah. So they're going to have a potential answer to Auburn's big guys, and it's going to be a well-coached team. but they're just not very talented, not very good this year. And they haven't been a great scoring team either. They've been really good defensively at times, but it's one that Auburn should definitely win at home.
Well, if they do, they will obviously certainly remain in the top 25, which is important for Bruce Pearl. I believe that would be 30 straight. If they beat Mississippi State, they will remain in the top 25. That would make 30 straight weeks. And from what I understand, 31 is the school record. So when Bruce talked about staying in the rankings against Arkansas, it sounds, it kind of at times it sort of sounded like he was just searching for motivation, but it's actually, he understands and cares about the history of Auburn basketball, and he knows how much of a desert it was in terms of good things happening. And so he's very aware of when Auburn basketball makes history, every little thing. And this is one. Staying in the rankings is really important to him. It might sound dumb, but it's a chance to make history, and it's a way to motivate his team. And so if they beat Mississippi State, they'll stay in the rankings. It'll be 30 straight weeks. And then really at that point, you probably split the next week and you can stay in there, and they can match the school record for consecutive weeks in the top 25, which would be 31. And so within a chance to break it. So he's very aware of these historical things, and they're good motivators. They're good ways to motivate.
Yeah, definitely. It's significant too. You look at these teams, and when you're playing a basketball game or when you're on ESPN or whatever, and they flash those stats up, and Auburn has some that you can really hang your hat on these days with the wins in SEC play, weeks ranked in the AP poll, home game winning streak. Got some. It's not. It's one more thing in recruiting too. You're not just selling a dream anymore. You're saying, hey, look at all the success we've had, and it's significant.
All right, Auburn and Mississippi State Saturday night. Another late tip, another 7:30 tip, which is not a bad thing for students. You'll have a wild student section, but for fans, it's not great if you have to travel. But 7:30 tip, SEC Network. I think Auburn and Mississippi State. Auburn tries to win 3 in a row and move to 4-1 in league play. All right, Jay, let's get out of here. For Jay, I'm Justin. AuburnLive.com. Go subscribe. $30 gets you access till next football season, so go hop on board. A lot of basketball coverage, transfer portal happenings in football. Hugh Freeze is killing it. So a lot of stuff going on at AuburnLive.com. Go subscribe, and we'll see you again in a week.